There was one time I got bit by a dog, and that was fun. Dogs in Samoa, they're really different than dogs here in America. In America, we treat them like, man's best friend. We love them and stuff. But in Samoa, they're more of just like guard animals. So there's no fences in Samoa, and the dogs don't really care if they leave the boundaries of the property of the people's home. So when you're just walking along the street, all of a sudden these dogs will start charging at you, and in order to scare them off, you have to like bend down and pretend to pick up a rock, because that motion, they're so used to it, people throwing rocks at them, and it's just part of the culture. One time I was at a house and we were trying to find someone with my friend, my companion, and when we were walking up to the house, there was a dog laying there, and my friend's like, oh, looks like no one's home. We did a little walk around the house, didn't go directly up to the dog, but I was like, hey, I want to try it out, let's go see if they're home. So I walk up to the door with the dog laying there, and I look down and it's like a really beefy built German Shepherd kind of dog. Normally the dogs are pretty skinny and wimpy, but in some areas they feed them really well, especially near the city, and this dog was really fed. And I walk up to it and I say, hey buddy, is anyone home? And then the dog looks up at me and starts growling and opens up its long teeth. And I get pretty scared, and I was like, whoa, probably shouldn't have done that. So I just start backing up, and I walk back and it starts barking at me. And there's a term Samoans use when the dog starts coming at them, or just if they're nearby them annoying them. They say halu, which means like go in a sense, but you put an H in front of the word alu, which alu means go. So I was yelling halu, halu repeatedly at it and like running backwards, and then the dog lunges and he implants his teeth, his two front fangs, inside my leg. And that was really painful. So at first it was more of a shock. I didn't know what had happened, and then immediately it ran off, which I was surprised. It didn't keep attacking, it just bit and then ran. My friend, my companion that was with me, starts laughing at me, and I'm like, dude, why are you laughing? Look. And the blood was gushing everywhere. And he's like, oh shoot, my bad. So he just looks around and finds one of their lava-lavas, those little things you wrap around your waist, hanging up on their laundry thing, and he grabs it, makes a tourniquet out of it, and puts it around my leg. Stops the blood. Call some other friends of ours who have a car to get me over and taken care of to our doctor, and she helped me get kind of cleaned out. Yeah, she said that was the worst dog bite she'd ever seen in the mission among the missionaries there. One of the biggest culture shocks was probably just how open everything was. I first lived at a family's house. They were letting me stay there, and I loved being with the family. The family was great. It was just so open. We had only one door to our room, my companion and I, but all the windows were open. You could hear bugs outside and everything. And I was just worried a cockroach was going to come get me or something. And then when I would go to the bathroom to go have a shower, it was partly outside, so I was just kind of worried myself too, of like, man, I'm not used to this. It's just all open. But that's how the people are. They just, most of them are all shirtless, all the guys, and just have lava for a little covering they use for their pants. That was probably the biggest shock, was just how open it was and all the bugs everywhere. But I was grateful for how loving they were. That helped me get adjusted a little bit better. All the food is really good, but I really like this one called oka, and it's just this raw fish that they had, and they put it inside a bowl, and it was so delicious. It sounds really interesting at first when you hear about it, but you put the raw fish, chunks of raw fish, in a bowl with like coconut cream and milk, and like cut up vegetables like cucumbers and tomatoes, and I think some mixture of salt, sometimes pepper too. But it sounds really interesting, but it's super good, and I never thought I would like it, but I loved it after I tried it. As well as palusami and ulu, which ulu is breadfruit. It's like a cantaloupe shape, I guess you could say. It's round, spherical. Then inside they have to like boil it, what they call saka. They gotta saka it, and so that boils it, and then it becomes edible. You open it up. It's really cool, but you dip it in this palusami mixture of coconut cream, milk, and some other stuff. And then more of a dessert fruit that I had there, I loved what they call sasalapa, which tastes like a Jolly Rancher inside. It's super good. You open it up and it's all this kind of liquid mush that you grab with your fingers and eat and put in your mouth, and it tastes super sweet and like a Jolly Rancher, but on the outside it's like spiky and pointy. But yeah, it's super nice. I had pig intestines and blood that was fried, so that was really interesting. They fried pig intestines and blood. Ate that. Not my favorite, but very interesting for sure. Had a shark once. Tried that. That was kind of good. Tasted a little different than fish, but really good still. Other weird foods, I had other friends that tried different things that I didn't per se. Like some of them had bat. They ate bats, and they also ate a dog once. But besides that, Samoans are known for all of their meat, and a lot of us are pretty familiar with it, but it tastes a lot more fresh because they, either killed it earlier that day and just cooked it that evening, and it's fresh right there for us to eat. So super good pig and cow beef and chicken all the time. The fruit is especially one of my favorite because, like pineapple, I had this one individual that he would, every time we went by to his house, he'd just give us fresh pineapple all the time, and he cut it up, and it was like the sweetest thing I'd ever had in my life. I could keep eating pineapple over and over. There's no way to describe it. It's just super sweet. The bananas too. Bananas are like sweeter than I've ever had as well. Just like, you can't compare them to America. Like America I thought was pretty good, and then I went to Samoa and I'm like, wow, I love bananas now. As a white guy, the Samoans, when you first get there, they like to say palangi, palangi, which means like, oh, it's a white person. And the direct translation of palangi is pa, which means like burst or explode, and langi is heaven. So it's like they fell out of heaven, basically bursted from heaven. And that's where the term came from. Since I was a palangi, a white guy there, they'd see me walking around and you just hear little kids all the time like, oh, palangi, palangi. And they would often think that I don't know what they're saying because they're like, oh, he's a white guy, he doesn't know. So little kids are just like the funniest thing over there. They'd like run up to me and they'd see me and they'd just say things like, kifia ka'ilaulu, which means like, oh, I'm gonna come break your head open, I'm gonna beat you up. And I was like, whoa, okay. And I started saying back to them like, hey, I understand you. And they're like, oh, shoot, let's get out of here, let's go. That was pretty funny, just having the little kids think that I don't know what they're saying, but they're trying to tell me they want to beat me up and stuff all the time. When I first started out, I had to learn the language, so I would just say funny things sometimes and I didn't know what I was saying. And my companion was a native to Samoa, and so when I would try to say something in Samoan, he'd like laugh and tell me something else. He's like, no, that's not it. So yeah, just funny experiences like that. I love the Samoan people. It's really cool, the culture there. Just wherever I went, it's a lot different than here in America. Like especially for missionaries of our church, because in America a lot of them get rejected, doors don't even open, but in Samoa their houses are all open, so you can almost see anybody who's inside whenever. And even if they have, some of them, well, a lot of them more, they're starting to get more houses like this. They call them fale palangis, which are like the white man's house, and they just have walls around them now, but all their windows are always open and you can hear clearly from outside. So the cool thing was, whenever we'd walk up, their culture is a form of respect. It's just part of their culture that they allow people into their home as long as we're respectful, you know. So that was really cool that I loved about the people. Even if they weren't part of our faith or they were someone we had never met, we walk up to them and try to spark a conversation, talk to them, and they're just always willing to let us in. They say sumayo ko sunga, shikaku kamnoa, they'd be like, let's talk a little bit, come into our house. I really loved how their culture was based on values like that of respect. They'd always put respect highest to the elders of the family. So with like grandparents, if they were living with the younger couple, then they were always the ones that they gave the food to first. They would acknowledge them first, and so when we entered, we would acknowledge them first and say thank you for blessing a family like this, and give them a little blessing. Then we'd talk and share messages with them and communicate. Most of the time, almost every time I went in a home, they would offer some form of treat or food to us just because they knew it was respectful. And when they had so little, that amazed me, because to be honest, a lot of us that have a lot in our lives, we don't see that. There's so much we do have, but we should be willing to give a lot more like they did. Before I knew this was part of the custom, if I ever said, oh, that's a nice shirt you got there, or like, dang, that's a nice tie, they would take it off and they would give it to me like, oh, you want it? Okay, here you go. And I'm like, no, I don't. I started to not say it as much because I felt bad. But just like if you said you saw something that was nice of theirs, that's like kind of saying that you want it in a way, that you like it. And then they, out of their custom and culture, would give it to you. And I just thought that was so loving, and that they have no need for things of the world as much. They were focused on always working. That's something else I loved about them. Physically, they're always doing physical labor constantly. Go up to higher up in their mountains and they would harvest from their, they call the ma'umanga, which is like their plantation, and they would get food from that and harvest. And if they had animals, they would kill them that day and, you know, prepare them for food. Just all this preparation and time. So just very respectful people, loving to everyone, brand new people like a white guy like me from America. They were just so caring for others around them and tried to prepare and give as much as they could to whoever their guests were. And so that's something that I really loved about the people. There's a lot of differences. One of the biggest one is obviously their financial situation is much different from the US where we live. We're blessed with a lot, to be honest, and a lot of things we take for granted. They don't. They're very grateful for everything they do have. That being said, their houses, a lot of them have poles around them, and they're just these long cylinder poles, and some of them are wooden too that can't afford cement. Like they have cement poles, and then others are just wooden kind of sticks holding up their house with like a tin roof on the top. Others, when you get more into central part of that village or into the city especially, the houses start getting nicer and they're a little more modernized with walls and windows, but that's kind of their situation with that. They have usually 5+ people living at their home at a time. Always huge families. When like a cousin of theirs needs a place to stay, they would let them stay. Don't have to pay anything. What I really liked about the Samoan people too is the way that they got food, is especially like I mentioned earlier with the plantations. They would go and do that themselves like every day, prepare the food. So that was really cool about Samoa. Even though it was mainly a third world country, they were still very suppliant, if that's the word. They always had enough food. and that was because the weather and the conditions there were always able to allow food to grow. And so that was really cool. As long as they were physically able to, they could go plant it and make it. But if they were limited on money for other food and clothing and utensils they needed, then they would make cocoa Samoa. And cocoa Samoa is like, they use a cocoa bean, chocolate cocoa bean, and they would just grind it up. And this process can take like, I'd say 2 hours, or I don't know, maybe even more sometimes, to just grind it. You have to peel it off. You have to wipe off all the liquid from the seeds, and then they have to grind it up. And after it's ground, which takes the longest part, they also have to burn the seeds first before they grind it. So it's a long process, but they'll use that and they'll go sell it in the town, in the city, if they need more money. And when they do that, they come back with the money and use that to buy little things from the store that they might need in their little village. It's really amazing. There's almost no crime there in Samoa. There still is crime. I've definitely heard a lot. But the thing is with Samoa, if you're living in a village, their structure of laws and stuff is based on the leaders in each village, what they call the matai, or the chiefs. And they have meetings together often, and they will discuss things that they've noticed. Kind of the cool thing is, everyone knows everyone in the village. So they've all heard about like every family. So when you go to a new village, you're like, oh, you know this family? And that's how you find places, because there's no addresses. No address to any house. You just have to ask people where someone lives. I thought that was really cool, just how the structure is, because since everyone knows everyone, if you make a mistake, you steal something, you hurt someone, then, you know, you're going to get in trouble. Everyone's going to find out. So that's what I really love about the culture and the aspect, even though they have so little and not many have cars. They usually use a bus to get to the city, but it's really peaceful, and that's because of just the way it's structured. They know everyone and try to keep that as safe as they can. Yeah, learning the Samoan language is pretty difficult at first. Luckily, I had a native companion, and he knew a little English. He was pretty good, but since being from Samoa, he wasn't fluent necessarily in English, but he knew it pretty well, that he could understand what I was saying, and he would help me learn some new things. I would listen to him, and he was a great guy. Later on in our mission, he turned out to be a really awesome guy, and he really helped me along the way. It was nice having him there, and the family I was with too, because the mother of the household I was staying with, she went on a mission for our church as well, and she went and learned English where she went. And so that helped her a lot to help me. And so the people were very nice, especially my friend, my companion that was with me at that time. He helped me learn a lot of the language and different things to say and what this meant. And he would give me a lot of opportunities to be like, hey, now it's your turn. You get to start out the introduction of this family. And I was like, wait, what? I don't know what. He's like, no, just do it anyways. Just go for it. And I was like, oh man, okay. That was how I learned the language. But I would say maybe about a year later is when I felt fluent. And I could say I could speak my mind, what I wanted to. And it's kind of interesting, most missionaries that are foreign from Samoa, that come to Samoa, they usually say the speaking part is the hardest for them, and understanding comes quicker. But for me, it was the opposite. It was kind of weird. I always knew what I wanted to form and say in my mind, but I couldn't always listen as well. But yeah, that was my experience with learning the language. So when I first started learning the language, obviously I didn't sound very Samoan. I sounded like a white guy trying to speak it. And usually when they make fun of you, it sounds kind of like if I was to impersonate a beginning missionary. Instead of saying palangi, they would say palagi, which the G makes an NG sound. So you never say palagi. That just sounds so American, I guess you could say. That's the American accent. Palagi, and there's a lizard called pili. Some missionaries would say pele, which is a different thing completely. The T's change to K's sometimes. I could try to think of a sentence and say how it would sound at the beginning. If I was going to say, thank you for the food, we're glad to be here, it might sound like fa'afetai fo mo le me a I ua fia ma ua ne. That's what it'd sound like if I first started. But after being back, it should sound more like Yafaftai lava molemea I ua saunia ma ua ne fia ma ua suatu to fale. And that's how it should sound. The wildlife is all like chickens everywhere, just on the road, constantly someone's chicken. Funny thing is, pigs though are one of the most important things to the Samoan people, and that's like their property. There were a couple times where someone might accidentally hit a pig with their car, and if they killed it, they got pretty frustrated because pigs were very valuable, and that's part of their property, and they usually cost a lot of money, and they provide a lot for the family too. So if you did that, then you really owe them and you're in their debt now, so you gotta be careful. But yeah, wildlife, cats, cats, dogs everywhere. Nothing was ever really a pet. The cats and dogs mainly, I guess you could say, were kind of pets, but people would just feed them and they would come. But it was a little sad to see a lot of the dogs and cats never fed well. They were usually just very skinny to the bone and constantly begging for food, and they would kind of shush them out of the way. But I mean, that's just part of the culture. They don't see the animals as friends, and pets. It's usually just either a guard dog or just there, or they would later use them for food. So that was kind of the wildlife. We would see cows everywhere too. Not many horses, but yeah, mainly the most thing that we were worried about in the wildlife, I guess you could say, were the dogs. If they started barking, you either pretend to pick up a rock and throw it at them, or just like yell at them halu to get out. But yeah, that was my experience with wildlife. I'd just love to thank the people for everything that you are and stand for. Of course, we all as humans, have faults, but never have I seen people more willing to give what little they have to strangers. And that's really helped me to want to be a better person since coming back. And I love all of your respectfulness that you gave to me and my type, especially from America. It really helped me see a different perspective, put myself in the shoes of others who don't have as much. And I am very thankful as well for your devotion to God and family, because Samoa is a very Christian society all around. Everyone believes in God. And the world, a lot of the rest of the world right now is forgetting God. And I thank the Samoan people and all of you in Samoa for keeping those values and standards, because we need that. The values that God gave us, they're what help us to be better people and to love more and serve others and to be more like Christ, our Savior, which is what everyone in Samoa believes. Believe in Christ, that He is the Redeemer and the Savior. And even though there may be differing beliefs and values, we all still share the love and want to be more like Him. And I want to end with a little thank you as well in Samoan. O te loto whaftai mo to uma. O to uma lena whapeona so soni mai ati au li taime sa o iai I Samoa. Sa iai ni lu'i tau whaingata mo wa'u ai maisi fo au wa'u fo ngana Samoa. Ai ala mari whatutua Yesu Keriso ma lana tongiola. Ai maisi fo le toa lofa i ati au ma lau soa. Sa ma whaona ma tuputupu wa'e ma iloa fo isi au wala so soni o to. Mais fo'i maua le alofa tu noa Yesu Keriso ma le atua fo'i. O te loa fo'i ala mai le alofa sa whapena o no to tuin mai ati au. Leo so soni mai ati au o te mau le tuptuwa'i le langona. E watu fo'i na alofa whaftai east ngata fo'i o te whiro wa'i I lo langa. E wi lava whaingata fo'i le neo langa mai fo'i le nei tausanga o tele whaingata ma lu'i tau wa tupu mai. A whapea tato tapatau lai I le atua. Ma lana ostau langa, ma lana alofa, ma lana polo inga, e ma whaona tātou so soni atu, tō te ngata fo'i. Lofa pēnā ona whiro wae luna le awala wātele. O te lofa tele te oto ma whaftai mo le anganga fia, ma le alofa mama o ma whaona tō awe mai a te au, ma o soa, ma isi whaiwhia o tālai o lo tālai fo'i I Samoa. O le atu I te oto so soni pēr lato whaiwhia o tālai mai Amerika, ma isi fo'i te ngata fo mai I te oto e watu pēr nā lofa sa whapena o tō tui mai I te au. Ona il nā o wala ma whaona tātou tuputupuwa le alofa I le lalangi atua mo te ngata uma, ma o lea maua pēr le fia. Te whaftai I te oto ma whai atu nei mea ma le fia. Yeah, whaftai lava. I'm really grateful for all the experiences I had, and I know the Samoan people are very loving and kind. If more people could be like them, then the world would be a little better of a place. So thank them for that, and I'm grateful for the experience and the perspective I got to see in a different area that I've never been to before. Thank you so much. Love you guys.